All right, welcome. Today, we're jumping into something that's, well, absolutely crucial for any organization, monitoring Microsoft Entra ID. I want you to think of it like this. You're standing guard at your digital fortress. Because at the end of the day, protecting every single identity and access point is what keeps your entire world secure and resilient.
But that brings up a really big question, right? Your identity platform is the watcher. So who's watching the watchers? How can you be sure that the very system in charge of all your security is itself healthy, secure, and hasn't been compromised?
And answering that question is exactly where we're going to start. See, effective monitoring isn't just some nice-to-have feature. It's the bedrock, the very foundation of a secure identity infrastructure. It demands a constant, proactive watch.
And here's the thing you really got to get. Just having logs, just collecting data, that's not enough. Not even close. You have to know the story that data's trying to tell you about threats or maybe even misconfigurations. And, just as important, you need to know how long you have to read that story before it just vanishes.
Okay, so how do we do this? Let's build out our strategy. It all begins with visibility, and that means you've got to get to know the foundational logs inside Entra ID. This is your raw intelligence, the ground truth.
So you've got two main players here, audit logs and sign-in logs. The audit log, that's like your digital detective's notebook. It meticulously jots down every single change that's made by an admin. And the sign-in logs? That's easy. It's the security camera pointed right at your front door, tracking every single attempt to get in.
But here's the catch, and it's a big one. Your ability to actually use these logs changes drastically depending on your license. If you're on the free tier, you're looking at a super short window for review. The premium tiers, though? That's what unlocks a much deeper historical view for a real investigation.
And I mean, just look at this table. The difference is night and day. On that free tier, your most critical logs, your audit and sign-in data, poof, they're gone after only 7 days. With a premium P1 or P2 license, that jumps up to 30 days, which is a much more useful time frame if you're doing any kind of serious work.
But let's zero in on that number for a second. 30 days. Even when you're paying for a premium license, the default out-of-the-box retention for your most important logs is just 1 month.
So you have to ask yourself, is that really enough for your organization? Think about it. A lot of compliance policies demand 90 days, maybe more. A sophisticated attacker could be lurking in your system for months before anyone notices. In that kind of scenario, a 30-day history is it's not going to cut it.
And that, right there, leads us perfectly into our second big idea, retention. If the default 30 days isn't enough, you absolutely need a strategy for long-term data analysis, one that can meet those tough compliance rules.
Okay, so here's the key takeaway here. There's no magic button in the Entra portal to just, extend that 30-day limit. The real solution is to get that data out. You have to export it to a destination that you actually control.
The good news is that Microsoft gives you a really straightforward data export pipeline to do this. And it's not like you're downloading CSV files every day. No. You just configure some diagnostic settings in Azure. You pick the logs you care about, choose where they go, and then you just let it run. It's automated.
And what's cool is you have a ton of flexibility for where this data lands. You can send it over to a log analytics workspace for when you really need to get your hands dirty and dig into the data. You can just archive it in a cheap storage account to tick that compliance box. Or you can stream it in real time with an event hub, or even plug it into the third-party security tools you're probably already using.
All right, this is where the rubber meets the road, our final section. You've got visibility, you've solved for retention, now it's time to turn all that data into actual, meaningful action.
I like to think about this in two ways, two key directions. First, you have to be able to look back. That's your reactive mode, investigating an incident after the fact. And second, you need to look forward. That's being proactive, improving your security before anything bad can even happen.
So when we're talking about looking back, we're talking about being a detective. Your audit logs are everything here. As the source material says, if there's a breach, this is one of the very first places you go to piece together what happened, to find out the steps the attacker took. And that long-term log history we just talked about, that's what makes this forensic work possible.
But reacting is only half the battle, right? We want to get ahead of the curve. To look forward, Entra ID gives us this incredible tool called the Identity Secure Score. This thing is your proactive playbook for hardening your environment.
So what the Secure Score does is it boils everything down to one simple number that gives you a snapshot of your current identity security posture. It tells you, right now, how well you're lined up with Microsoft's security best practices.
But here's the best part. It is not just a grade. The Secure Score gives you a prioritized to-do list of real, actionable recommendations. It tells you exactly what to do, like, hey, you should enforce MFA for all your admins, which is a huge impact item. And then boom, it shows you precisely how much your score, and more importantly, your security, will improve.
So, let's tie this all together. Our whole game plan comes down to these 3 things. It starts with visibility. Know your audit and sign-in logs. Then, it moves to retention. Export that data so you can keep it as long as you need. And finally, it all culminates in action. Use that data to investigate the past and proactively secure your future.
Look, at the end of the day, this whole process, it generates this constant stream of security data. That data is telling a story, the story of your organization's security, every single minute of every single day. So the real question is, are you prepared to read it?